The story of the Ottoman Empire is one of the greatest legends in history. It began in 1299 under the leadership of Osman Ghazi. As a small state, for the next 3 centuries, it proved itself to be the world's greatest power. Sultan Mohammed Fateh conquered the invincible Constantinople in 1453. The empire reached its absolute peak during the reign of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. Their control stretched across 3 major continents: Asia, Africa, and Europe. Holy sites like Makkah, Medina, and Jerusalem were under their protective shadow. But like every great empire, its decline was eventually inevitable. The first and primary cause of the fall was a failure to adapt to a changing world. When the scientific revolution began in Europe, the Ottomans fell behind. They relied too much on past successes and ignored modern technology. There was a delay of centuries in adopting the printing press and modern education. This technological gap first weakened the formidable Ottoman military. European nations developed modern gunpowder and changed the battlefield forever. Ottoman swords and old cannons could not compete with modern firearms. The second major cause was the internal change within the royal family. After Sultan Suleiman, the arrival of capable and warrior sultans decreased. Under the caste system, princes were kept confined within palace walls. Consequently, new sultans had no practical experience with the world or warfare. They remained under the influence of palace conspiracies and royal women. Harem politics began to negatively impact major state decisions. Merit was replaced by favoritism and bribery within the royal court. The Janissary army, once the empire's strength, turned into rebels. They would dethrone or even assassinate any sultan whenever they pleased. Internal weaknesses loosened the central government's grip on power. The third major blow came in the form of an economic collapse. When Europe discovered new sea routes, the old Silk Road lost its value. A massive decrease occurred in the trade revenue of the Ottomans. The Industrial Revolution enabled Europe to produce cheap goods. Ottoman markets were flooded with European factory goods, destroying local industry. The heavy expenses of constant wars completely emptied the royal treasury. By the 19th century, the empire had to take massive loans from European banks. Interest payments eventually turned the empire into a bankrupt state. The fourth reason was the rise of nationalism among different groups. Enemy powers incited the minorities living within the empire. Greece was the first to declare its rebellion and achieve independence. Following this, the Balkan states began to separate from the empire one by one. Seeds of hatred against the caliphate were also sown in the Arab world. Russia constantly attempted to weaken the Ottomans from the inside. In the 19th century, the empire became known as the sick man of Europe. Sultan Abdulhamid II made a final attempt to save the empire. He created unity through the Hedjaz Railway and educational reforms, but the Young Turks movement eventually removed him from the throne. The control of the empire was now in the hands of emotional and inexperienced men. The fifth and final cause was the arrival of World War I. The Ottomans decided to side with Germany, which proved to be disastrous. This war finished off whatever strength and treasury was left. British and French forces joined together to occupy Arab territories. Under the Sykes-Picot Agreement, the empire was divided into pieces. The occupation of Istanbul by Allied forces was the darkest day in history. Mustafa Kemal Ataturk began the resistance. During this difficult time, he fought a war to expel the enemy forces from the Turkish heartland. In 1922, the system of the Sultanate was officially abolished. The last Sultan, Mehmed VI, was forced to leave the country. On March 3, 1924, the caliphate was completely brought to an end. Turkey became a secular republic, and the caliphate became history. A 600-year rise turned into a decline in just a few years. The foundation of this fall had been laid centuries before. Distance from education and research left the Ottomans behind. While the world was changing, the Ottoman court refused to transform. Taking pride only in stories of the past is never enough. Political freedom cannot be maintained without economic independence. Interest in debt paved the way for the empire's ultimate enslavement. A lack of internal unity invites the enemy to attack. When bribery becomes common, even the greatest systems collapse. The fall of the Ottoman Empire was a tragedy for the entire Islamic world. It created a vacuum in the Middle East that remains unfilled today. The issue of Palestine is also a link in the chain of this decline. History teaches us that stagnation is equivalent to death. No one can deny the vital importance of science and technology. Principled leadership is essential for the survival of any state. The Ottoman sultans kept the flag of Islam high for centuries. Their fall was not just the fall of a country, but the end of an era. Their name is still taken with great honor in the pages of history, but their mistakes serve as a powerful lesson for future generations. Nationalism weakened a once strong religious bond. The end of the caliphate deprived Muslims of a central leadership. British conspiracies built a wall between Arabs and Turks. Today's Turkey is a new form of that same great history. But that old magnificence is now only found in books. Every aspect of the decline wakes us up from our sleep. The correct use of money, power, and knowledge leads to a rise. The Ottomans kept Europe trembling for centuries. But the world took a turn, and they were left behind. A decline is written in the fate of every rise, but the reasons for a decline are always human-made. Failing to make decisions at the right time is the biggest mistake. The story of the Ottoman Empire is a manual of lessons. Their past was glorious, but there was no preparation for the future. Today, the world is repeating the same mistakes the Ottomans made. Ignoring science and logic always comes at a heavy price. Ruling the world for 600 years is no small feat. This empire was established on the foundations of justice and equity. But when justice departed, the empire also collapsed. Even today, the walls of Istanbul bear witness to their greatness. History is told not just for pride, but for the sake of learning. The end of the Ottoman Caliphate was a new turning point for the world. We can improve our future by learning from this story. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. Goodbye, and we will meet again with a new topic of history.